$599 for the world's fastest desktop? That can't be right. But that's exactly what Apple just did with the new Mac Mini. And the craziest part, it's smaller than ever. Like, way smaller. Look, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great, another Apple video hyping up minor changes. But stick with me because this thing is actually insane. And I'm going to show you exactly why. First off, let's talk about that size. The new Mac Mini is just 5 by 5 inches. That's it. And it's only 2 inches tall. To put that in perspective, it's smaller than my camera, smaller than most phones. Heck, it's even smaller than the old Mac Mini, which was already tiny. Like, look at this. The old Mac Mini was about 8 inches wide, already pretty small, right? But putting them side by side, the old one looks absolutely massive now. Apple somehow managed to shrink this thing down by almost half while making it more powerful. That's just wild. Now, let's talk ports, because this is where it gets interesting. On the back, you're getting 3 Thunderbolt ports. HDMI that can do 8K at 60 Hz or 4K at 240 Hz. Perfect for gaming. And Ethernet. And if you spring for the Pro version, those Thunderbolt ports are actually Thunderbolt 5, pushing speeds up to 120 Gbps. That's insanely fast. They even added 2 USB-C ports to the front, which is actually super convenient for quickly plugging in devices. Though fair warning, these front ports are slower than the ones in the back. But for charging stuff or quick file transfers, they're perfect. Plus, there's a headphone jack up front too. All right, let's dive into what this thing can actually do because the specs are pretty nuts. The base model comes with Apple's new M4 chip, which has a 10-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. But the really crazy part? It has 28 billion transistors. That's 3 billion more than the M3. In our tests, we're seeing about a 20% boost in CPU performance over the M3. Let me put that in perspective. This tiny box is scoring higher in single-core performance than literally any other Mac. Ever. Including the Mac Pro. That's just ridiculous. For everyday stuff, this thing absolutely flies. I'm talking dozens of browser tabs, multiple apps running, photo editing. It handles it all without breaking a sweat. And the best part? It's practically silent. Like, you can barely hear it even under heavy load. Now let's talk gaming, because this is where things get interesting. I know, gaming on a Mac, but hear me out. I tested Shadow of the Tomb Raider on high settings. We're talking pretty demanding graphics here, and it hit 44 frames per second. That's actually really playable. I also tried Total War, Warhammer 3. On ultra settings, it managed 22 FPS. Not great, but drop those settings down to low, bang, 55 FPS. Sure, it's not going to replace your gaming PC, but for a tiny desktop that costs less than a PS5 Pro, that's pretty impressive. Here's something else that's wild. This thing is actually built for AI. The M4 chip can handle 38 trillion operations per second. That's specifically for AI tasks. I tested out some of Apple's new AI features, like the photo editing cleanup tool, and while it's not perfect, it's super quick and all happens right on the device. Now let's break down the pricing, because this is where things get really interesting. The base model starts at $599. I know. An Apple product that's actually affordable? But wait, it gets better. You're getting 16 gigabytes of memory standard. That's double what the previous model had. But, and there's always a but with Apple, the upgrades will cost you. Want to bump up to a terabyte of storage? That's an extra $400. Want the Pro version with that fancy Thunderbolt 5? Now we're talking $1,399. The price ladder is real, folks. There is one funny thing, though. Apple just couldn't help themselves. You know how they always have that one weird design choice? Like the charging port on the bottom of the Magic Mouse? Well, guess where they put the power button on this thing? The bottom. They put it on the bottom. I mean, who does that? At least the computer's light enough that it's not a huge deal, but still, classic Apple move right there. Quick note about what you actually get. It's pretty basic. You get the Mac Mini and a power cord. That's it. No keyboard, no mouse, no fancy cables. But hey, at least there's no external power brick. They managed to fit everything inside that tiny case. Here's the thing. If you tried to build a Windows PC this small, you'd either end up with something way less powerful or way more expensive. I've looked. Trust me. There's literally nothing in the Windows world that can match this combination of size, power, and price. So should you buy it? If you want the base model, absolutely. It's genuinely one of the best deals in tech right now. For $599, you're getting a tiny powerhouse that can handle pretty much anything you throw at it. But those upgrades, that's where you need to think carefully about what you actually need. Nobody asked for an even smaller Mac Mini, but somehow Apple made it work. And they made it work really well. It's faster, smaller, and just as affordable as before. And in the tech world, that's pretty rare. Drop a comment if you want to see more detailed benchmarks or specific tests. I'd love to know what you want to see this thing do. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell to catch the next one.